I was born and brought up in Africa, in East Africa, in Uganda. I was born in Jinja, which is the source of River Nile. Must have stayed there for a year, so I don't remember much about Jinja. Then we moved to a little town called Iganga, and I have memories of it being in Iganga, which was a childhood, a very free childhood, where nowadays I really feel very disappointed, and the children don't have that freedom. They can't just go out and play because there's so much abuse going around you nowadays. But we used to just run around, jump gutters, go into the farms, and just had a very free life. Really enjoyed my childhood life there, and the weather was brilliant. I left Uganda when I finished my what then used to be O-levels, and I had just gone to India on a holiday to come back and do A-levels. And at that time, if you remember what happened with Idi Amin in Uganda, he threw all the Asians out of the country, and that's when my dad was still back in Africa. So he telegraphed to say, don't come, stay there. So I ended up having to study there, and I did my education there before I came here, whereas my dad came here. My dad, mom and dad both had British citizenship because Uganda was a colony of England at the time. And we all had British. My older brother and sister didn't, but we all had British passports. So that's when I came back. I came here in 1976, and I studied in India then. I did it in Punjab, which is the northern state of India, in Punjab, and I went to an all-girls college, and I did a BSc degree in science, botany, zoology, and chemistry. It's called Guru Nanak Dev University, that college came under. That's in Punjab, in Jalandhar. Coming to UK, it took a long time for us. If you remember what I talked about in 71 was the whole hangama about Idi Amin, and then my brother, who was an older brother, he had an Indian passport, and he couldn't come in here because he was over 18 as well. And so my dad fought through the MPs here that he didn't want the family to be split because of what had happened. So that took a long time to fight and get the whole family together here. And that's why then I finished my education in India, and we all came here. My view of England was England would be a very accommodating and very friendly people, which come here was a mixture. And as you grow older, you realize that's part of community. Everybody's like that. I thought people would be very friendly and welcoming, but the experience of racism hit, and that wasn't nice. Yes, and then having to find jobs here, having to do further education was also difficult. When I went to India, I missed Africa a lot. Then came here and I missed India, got used to India and life in India, which was different to Africa. And I came here and I missed life in India. And then I'm used to here, and I do go out on holidays, and if I go to holidays to India, I want to come back. I'm here, this is my country now to me. And yes, 2-3 weeks is fine, then I want to be back here. But it was different from what my expectations were. Back in Africa, we had teachers who would come from here, and they would come on 3-year contracts to teach us. So we had, white British teachers who would come, and their impression of England, what we heard stories about England would be, was different. You felt that everything is carpeted, there's no dirt, nothing. We go out, it rained, it snowed, and you get dirty. I don't know, as a child you grow up, you think it's different, and what you saw in magazines were different to what real life is about. And this is talking about real life. You realize, no, this is not how it is. But when I left India to come here, this is what I was thinking, right? You can wear clothes like this, you can wear flowy clothes, and you can go out on the streets. Look at it. I very soon realized it wasn't that. Yeah. Now I came here, looking for jobs was difficult. I applied because I had a BSc degree with me, and I applied for jobs. Either I was too qualified, so I wouldn't get a job, or I was underqualified. So it was real hard work to get a job. And I was just walking up and down Soho Road, and there was a job in a shop. It's a clothes shop. And I just walked in. I worked there for a few months, and then I bumped into somebody who was back from Africa and from the same town we were in. And I was saying to him, look, I'm looking for jobs, I can't find jobs. And at the same time, I was looking at doing some sort of further education, because I really wanted to do was get a degree of some sort, and a professional degree. And through him, I got a job at a chemist. He knew somebody, and I got a job at a chemist. But at the same time, what I was trying to do was get into pharmacy, and in this sort of medical line, because I had done BSc degree and was trying to get into pharmacy, and not knowing how the bureaucratic system works here, and having no career advice, didn't know there were career centres I could go there for advice, or did just apply to university to see what I could. And they said, I have to do at least one subject in this country in order to be accepted. And I was saying, I've got all these subjects, and I've done 4 years of this science, botany, zoology, and chemistry, and you still want me to do an A-level subject here. That's what I was talking about, and I couldn't figure that out. After O-levels, done all that, and you still want me to do an A-level here. I took up to do maths. Right, I'll do an A-level. I was working by that at a chemist, and evening classes once a week. I would go to what used to be a Matthew Bolton College here, and I went there. Do you know, that's all right, I want to do a maths degree. All I knew about maths was what is termed as pure maths. To me, that was just maths. I didn't know any other lines of maths there were. And this girl said, no, that is very difficult to do. Why don't you do stats? And my dad was with me, and my dad said, listen to what she's saying. You have to do what she says. And I said, Dad, I don't know stats. I know ABC of stats. But anyway, I had to do it. I didn't get the grade I needed for the university admission to do pharmacy. I then took it on my own. I said, right, I will do pure maths, which by that time was after 7 years doing O-levels. I did maths while I was working, evening classes. Within 3 months, I got my maths A-level maths degree. Then I remember going to Aston University, where I got my to do my maths degree. But then I applied for pharmacy, and they said it's too late. So because I had maths, I went into Aston University for an interview to do maths degree, and I got accepted to do maths degree. I didn't know how interviews were taken here. I just walked in like we were, just allowed to chat with them. And he just gave me examples to do, and I just stared at his face. I said, I didn't know I had to do example sums here. And I said, that's all done. And because I couldn't remember all the formulas. So I said, right, I know this is the formula to use, and this is how to do the work. This is how the steps for to do these particular sums. And that's how I got it and got in. Unfortunately, I got married. This was April, May, I must have gone for an interview. And May I got married, and September I was going to start uni. I mean, by that time, the trend, because there was all this arranged marriage, sometimes you never saw your partners until you got married. But my older brother and my older sister, they saw their partners, and that's how they got married. Come my turn. My mother-in-law was also of old thoughts. No, she said to my dad, the boy's not going to meet the girl, and my dad agreed. So we got married, and those days were where you had to go to registry office here for registration, and then we used to have a marriage at the temple. So that's the first time I was there. One thing, I was too shy, and I just wouldn't look up at him. So I came away after the whole day, come home, I said, look, I don't know what he looks like. And then I'm thinking, I'll be shopping for my wedding, he'll be shopping for his, and what if I bump into him, I won't know what he looks like. And that's, so I don't know what he looks like. Apart from photos are different to seeing people in real life. But one of the things, he was quite chatty. He kept talking to me throughout the ceremony. And I come home, my mom and my sister both said, you wait, he'll make contact with you. My mom said, he'll make you very happy. And this was a Saturday. Come Monday, he was at the shop. He rang me on Monday, and we regularly saw each other. That was a funny story. My dad, bless him, he's not here anymore. He wouldn't have agreed for me to meet him. He wanted to meet me. Soki says, Sukaninder. And I said, now what do I do? He's my husband, I have to obey him. I can't say no to him. So I came home and said to my mom and my sisters, he wants to meet me. And we knew my brother, when my sister-in-law, my brother was married. She says, there's no way my brother would agree to that before we had our Indian ceremony. And whereas the females in the family were quite happy. So we met, we didn't tell them. And yeah, but it was good. The wedding itself was a good day. And by that time, because we had met, we had spoken to each other, and I felt I knew him before we actually got married. So it wasn't to get to know him. To me, it was more to get to know the whole in-law side of the family, because we were going to live in the extended family together, which I did live with them. So, but it's been a good marriage with Soki. It still is. It's been a very good one. I've got 2 boys. I've got 4 grandchildren, 2 from each one of them. Until recent, until about 2 months, we all lived together, and which was fine, happy, because that's what the boys wanted, to live together. My view always was, once they get married, buy them their houses, and they can stay with us a few months and they can move out. But come there, they said, no, we want to stay with you. I said, what about your wives? They said, we'll choose wives who will live. And I'm lucky, both girls wanted to stay with us, and they were happy living with us. And now the family had grown. We had 4 grandchildren, and then one of them had to take a decision to move. And so one of them is just nearby. We see the children regularly. So yes. Now as a grandmother, I'm retired, and we have the 2 I have with me. We don't take them to school. The parents take them to school. We sometimes have to go and pick them up, with them, cook their dinner, feed them. And I also cook dinner most of the time, because by the time my sons and daughters come home, it's 6:30. And it's late if they had to come and cook. So I do all the cooking. So they come home, have dinner, and they sort their children out. I'm free with children then. But during the day, I do all sorts of stuff. As you know, from Ekta group, I attend that group. There's things that I do in the community. I go to the temple. The families who need support, I do that. We know somebody, I hope it's okay to say, that her husband was suffering from cancer. So helped her through that, through those phases all of the time, and wherever he needed to go, took them. And then again, somebody else I know who again was struggling and needed a lot of support, and then her brother had mental health problems, so I just go and help them out, sort things out for them, or whatever needs sorting out. So there's things like that. Where I can, I will just go and help people out. I think it's time that I'm retired that I put back something into the community. It's important, to me it is important to do. I mean, what my profession was, I went into social work, and what social work brought out in me, and the difficult I had to face with having got married into a family. It was a very matriarchal family. The inner strength I had, that came out and brought how I became a very positive and a very strong. And then I was surprised to realize how mentally strong I was to take in and to prove and be able to differentiate my job, my role. There was me when I walked in, and then was me as a wife. And I had to fulfill my roles as a wife, and balancing that with, as a daughter-in-law living in the extended family, what my roles and responsibility was. But then I was a mother and a woman in my own right. Things that I could do myself, I wanted to do myself, where I would not have anybody put any pressure on me. And be a daughter-in-law, but not be a very submissive one, which could have easily happened. And I think behind all that, there was a lot of support for me from my husband, who allowed me to do all that. So it was the person I was, the person who I became, and very assertive, and knew what I want and what I want to do in life, and the way I brought up my family and the children to be, not to be male chauvinist, and to respect women, because that became very important to me over time, that I didn't want them to oppress women, oppress anybody, and look after themselves as well. And they are 2 very well grown-up children who are also very good cooks. I have to say, they do make me proud. I cook a variety of foods, but I do enjoy cooking Indian foods as well. I do love cooking. And I do others. I do pastas as well, and I will try a different foods. I look at, if I'm eating a dish, because quite extravagant with my foods, I will try different dishes for different countries. And you look at it, I quite like this. I think I'll change something. Sometimes I change. I do enjoy having ginger and cumin and garlic in my food. So most of the stuff I do, these things just come into it, and chilies come into it. When I came of age to learn to cook, there were certain things I learned from a very young age, because you are there because I knew how to make chapatis. I'd seen mom doing things. But actually learning cooking itself, my mom My elder brother, it was funny, so my elder brother, when he finished O levels, he didn't want to come. My dad wanted him to come to England to study, but he was adamant he wanted to go to India to study. So he went to India, then he was homesick. So my sister, when she finished O levels, she went there. So then mom had to go there. So there was us, me, and we were 5 of us. So the 3 younger of us was with my dad. So it was my dad who taught, because by that time I didn't know how to make curry something. So it was my dad who taught me how to cook. My dad's a good cook, and my both brothers cook. And it was important in the family that everybody cooked. I remember at one point, I had an argument at the table. Why do us sisters have to cook all the time? Why the boys don't cook? So the next cook in turn was theirs. And I ended up having a very, very dry chapati to eat. I used to miss Africa a lot. That's childhood. Now I'm into adulthood. I'm into grandparenthood now. And I like... whether I would want to go back there and live there, if that's what you're asking. We went to Africa on a holiday because I wanted, my husband is not from Africa. I wanted him to see what Africa was like and for my children to see where my childhood was. And we went to Mombasa, which is Kenya. And the plan was to travel to Uganda. And what I saw then, and what Africa was, it wasn't the free life. I remember you could just walk out and about anyway. You couldn't do that. And while we were traveling in Kenya, I said to the driver, we had just one driver, I said, let's go to Uganda. And he said, situation's pretty bad there. The roads are really bad. You wouldn't want to go there. And when you have your young children with you, then you don't want to take risks. And that put me off, seeing things like that. And because I remember, anywhere holidays I go, we just get up and we'd walk around, we go into this with the communities to see what people live like and what life is really there. And we did. We were warned not to go out of the complex, the resort we were in. We still did. And go in Mombasa, in the town. Couldn't see anybody there, apart from Africans there. And after a while I realized, my God, we are the only ones here. Can't see any other people. People come there. I mean, we got families back in Africa. Well, my husband's side of the family are in Africa. But who I hear, they come in the cars, outside the shops where they go into the shops, and you won't see them out on the streets. So that was a bit disappointing and frightening a little. Are we okay? Are we safe here now? So, but I just went and explored. Then went out. We did go out, and we took somebody with us, a guide, and we looked at villages, what village life is like there. So my children understand what village life back there is as well. So, but it was a good life. I think things you take for granted, I took for granted as a child. Here, if there is a good sunset, a good sunrise, we all go out and look at the sky. To me, it was every day was a red sky in the evening when it was sunset or sunrise, and you just took things for granted. You took weather for granted. You don't have that here.